smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing.
What is up, everybody? This is Mike from the Fellow Foxes podcast. Welcome to another edition of the show. So we are going to be covering a few topics today. First off, we are going to be covering the 2-1 win for Leicester City over Rotherham. We are going to be covering some outgoings that are almost confirmed, not completely confirmed, but seem like it's likely that they're going to happen. And then we are going to cover a couple incomings. One has happened, and one is on the cards of happening, and then we're just going to have a short Tranmere preview for tomorrow. So let's get right into things. First, we are going to get into the lineups here. Sorry, I get a little discombobulated here. I just get so hyped when the song comes on. So we are going to bring up the lineups for Leicester versus Rotherham. So let me get a little zoom action here. All right. So as we can see here, we had the usual suspects, it seemed. The one thing that changed was the introduction of Casey McAteer, and he came in for Wanya Marçal. So that was good to see him back from injury. I know that he was looking good in preseason, and it was a shame that he got picked up a knock, but he's back. And then the lineup seems to be getting consistent from what I can tell. As you can see, we still have basically the same core of players in here that Enzo has seemed to found trust in. And I'm liking to see Yannick still in there, still getting a great rating in this game too. 7.2 has been consistent for all his haters out there. But so we're going to talk a little bit about the game. The beginning was decent. They definitely had a very early scare when Rotherham had that goal called off, and I wrote down that Ndidi was pretty poor marking for that goal. I believe he was the one covering the Rotherham player who ended up quote unquote scoring that goal, and he just didn't do a good enough job of marking him. Seemed like a pretty lazy job of marking him. And later in the show, we're going to talk about some outgoings, and it looks like he's going to be one of them. So while I say that with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, considering how good he's been for the team in the role that he's been asked to play in the past, and how he's tried to adapt this preseason and early season and attempted it with gusto, it's still a good thing that he might be going. But yeah, so he didn't cover that well, and then moments later, or a few minutes later, Leicester go down the field. There was a chipped-in ball. I believe it was from Harry Winks. He moved the play up the field and then chipped the ball in over the top to Kelechi Iheanacho, who brought the ball all the way down to I can't remember if it was to Iheanacho or Mavididi that initially got the ball from Harry Winks, but the ball ended up with Kelechi Iheanacho in the box. He has a fabulous turn of skill where he fakes the back heel to Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, creating enough space for him to run as close as he could get to the byline, and then chips the ball back post to Casey McAteer, who springs up very high. We don't really have a lot of tall players in this lineup, and Casey McAteer got up there, Air Jordan style. So good to see that we have some leapers in this team, considering how common it seems to be headers are with this squad. And yeah, he puts in a great header and goes downward, towards the bottom of the net. And again, I want to say it seems like Maresca is pushing for these players to cross the ball high and head the ball. It's not the first time we've seen it this season. Obviously, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall's goal in the first game, I believe it was his first of the two, was a headed goal, and it was from a cross from the right-hand side, kind of deep. Not terribly deep, but kind of deep. So it seems that there might be something in that Maresca is pushing for these higher cross balls, late runs, and headers. Then we're going to move on to the second half. Leicester looked a little shaky to begin the second half, and it cost them. They were scored on. It was a chip to the back post. It looked like there was probably like a triune blame going on there between Mads, Vestergaard, and Doyle. Mads looked like he wanted to come for it and then backed off. Maybe he should have given the shout and came and punched. Vestergaard didn't jump. Looked like if he would have jumped, he might have been able to put that ball away. And then Doyle, it looked like the man just snuck in front of him, and that's how he got positioned to get onto that cross. So they're all human. People make mistakes, but definitely, I'm sure, something the coaching team will be looking at in the training room this week. Yeah, it was a poor goal to concede. I'm not going to say that Rotherham necessarily didn't deserve it, considering what they were doing for most of the second half. But still, it's something where this team is fairly new in their process, learning how to defend in this back three hybrid formation that they have. Back four, back three hybrid formation is something that's obviously needing some ironing out. But I have faith that they will do that. I would like to see these games being put away easier, considering who Rotherham are and how much success they haven't had this season. So definitely something to look forward to, I hope, in the future as this style of play continues to seep into these players. Now we're going to get to the game-winning goal for Leicester. It was beautiful. It was a well-worked move. I wrote down that Cassiday's movement caused a lot of trouble. It looked like the runs that he was making, and just, if I can say, the players in general and their understanding of what they're supposed to be doing given certain situations in the game. It looked like when Cassidy was making certain runs, and Ricardo Pereira would take that space, and then they would switch, and then they would switch again. Really confusing the Rotherham defense. I got Tranmere on the mind for tomorrow. So yeah, they looked like they were causing trouble for that second goal, just with the movement and the patterns of passing. And then it looked like it was the late run of Cassidy that drew a defender away from Casey McAteer inside the box that allowed Doyle to, what a beautiful pass, by the way. He is just playing himself into a team of the season place very quickly, Callum Doyle. And in this game, I believe he was rated pretty highly. 7.8 on SofaScore. So, I mean, he definitely put in a shift. And just that pass across the field over the head of everybody. Casey McAteer settles. Looks like he's going to go right, cuts back onto his left, and then just fires a curled shot with his left foot. The goalie got a touch on it, and it was just too strong for the goalie to receive. So, great play. I actually have a clip of that brought up here. If you just give me one moment, we have to go over to the screen here. Now, I hope I don't get sued for this. I hope this is fair use at this point, because this is up on Twitter from Michael Thomas at Tac Football on Twitter. He took a clip of this, and I just brought this up, so I just want to show this real quickly. And I don't have any sound for this, so hopefully, again, this doesn't get me sued. But if we look here, the play is starting there with Vestergaard. And then let's just take a look at how this develops, because this is the Casey McAteer game-winning goal. So Vestergaard, Ricardo, first time to Winks. Winks moves up, out to Cassidy. Cassidy immediately turns, goes outside. Checks, back into Cassidy. Cassidy, back, Foss in the middle to Winks. Winks to Vestergaard. Doyle. Cassidy going in the middle there. And then that's when the pass happens. And look at all that space. And that was created just from that run of Cesare Cassidy. So, and you can see why Enzo wanted him. Even when he was on the ball there, he was calling for the ball when he didn't have it. His passes are crisp. He looks like an absolute Cadillac. And I cannot wait to see what he develops into for this season. And again, I say offer Chelsea 40 mil right now. Put it on the table. But yeah, so that goal was beautiful. It was well worked. It was pretty much exactly, I think, at least what Enzo was looking for from this team, which is working space and drawing the opponent to different sides of the field to create that wide open opportunity for one of these wingers, which we've seen Mavididi get a lot of outlet balls, and now we're seeing a lot of Casey McAteer in this game. It just seems like maybe whichever winger is having the advantage on their outside back, then that seems like the side that they're going to the most. But again, it was a great win for Leicester. I don't want to say come from behind, considering they led and then, unfortunately conceded early second half. But another late goal, which is seeming like it's going to be a pattern with this team. And it seems like that's a carryover again from Maresca from Manchester City. These tactics are wearing teams out. They're running all game. And I think we had 65% possession of the ball in this game, which again, if you're having 65, 70% possession in games, that means the other team is running, chasing all game, which nobody wants to do. And when it gets to the 70th, 75th minute, players that aren't getting subbed, maybe their legs are starting to go. Maybe they're getting a little tired in their mind from thinking about all these different players they have to cover and different ways that they're moving and who's coming into their space and drifting out of their space. So I really think that this is a pattern we can hopefully get used to, which is around the 70th minute, we start making changes either right before or during or right after. And the wear factor on the opponent with players like Vardy and Kazade coming on. I believe Kazade will start soon. But just players like Vardy, and I really believe that's a key tactic Maresca has been working so far, is the difference between Kelechi Iheanacho and Jamie Vardy. You have Kelechi Iheanacho all game sinking in low to the midfield, getting these fizzed-in passes, laying off the teammates, and confusing the defense about who they need to be watching and drawing center backs into midfield all game, making them run. And then late in the game, you have Jamie Vardy, who is the master of running off the shoulder. A center back's worst nightmare, Jamie Vardy, and they all know him. They all are scared of him, and he demands respect and attention from these defenses, because if you don't, he will score. So it's a beautiful tactic that they're working so far. I really, really hope that Kelechi Iheanacho doesn't go anywhere. And again, I will discuss that in a little bit when we have some transfer news and the transfer segment coming up. But definitely a beautiful combination between the two different strikers. And it seems, again, that Leicester City are scoring late goals, and it has to be, I think, a byproduct of the patterns of play. But great win for Leicester. They stay perfect in the season. 4 for 4 in the league, 5 for 5 in all. Hopefully we can make that 6 for 6 in all come tomorrow when we play Tranmere. And boy, it's looking good, and this team isn't even hitting their full flow yet. So if we can just pray that everything goes well, the transfer window closes with not too much of a shakeup and hopefully some great additions, and we can look forward to amazing things come later in the season. All right, so we're going to take our first break here at the Fellow Foxes podcast, and then when we come back, we are going to discuss some transfer news, some ins, some outs, and some rumors. Stay with us. We will be right back. And we are back to the Fellow Foxes podcast, and we are going to discuss some transfer rumors and news. So, first off, we're going to discuss some outgoings of the team. So, right now we are, oh, excuse me, got to get my sounds going here. Can't have a party without this Vardy song. So, we're going to discuss some outgoings. First off, Victor Christensen looks like he's going to be loaned out, according to reports on Twitter, to Bologna. I think that's good. I think that he is too much of a traditional fullback to fit anywhere specifically in this team that doesn't already have some depth to it. With James Justin coming back, and just the fact that he's not a versatile fullback. He's a traditional just go up the wing fullback. I don't think that he fits, and it'll be good to get him on loan. I know that he just got in, but it's obvious that Maresca doesn't rate him or doesn't just see him fitting in. Then we are hearing about Sumare. He might be leaving to Sevilla, it looks like, on loan. I know a lot of people are very sour on Sumare, and I understand why. I'm not going to argue with the reasoning why, but what I will say is that, again, do not ever underestimate what Brendan Rodgers did to this team and did to the players in this team. I genuinely think Sumare is still a talented player, and I think given the right opportunity and the right motivation, he would be a great player. I know that the moments were not consistent enough, but there were moments where he would shrug players off of him like they were ragdolls and advance up the field and move the play. Now, I'm not saying his decisions after he did that were great, but you can teach that. You can teach recognition. You can teach scanning, but you can't teach being strong. So I think it's a shame that he doesn't really fit in the system. But again, it'll be good to get him off the books in terms of his wages. And then some permanents we're looking at in terms of outgoings. Castagna to Fulham. It's looking like that's going to get done. I'm hoping. He's been a good player for us. I definitely think that if he doesn't want to be here, we don't need him to be here. I think that how versatile he is, Maresca could use him, and we'll discuss, what Maresca could do with some of these players that might not leave. But I think that he's versatile enough that if he was left, he would be useful. You just need to understand that if he doesn't want to be here and we're going to get something for him, got to get rid of him. Daka to Bournemouth is another one. Again, it seems like Maresca just doesn't rate him. If we do lose Daka, we need to get another striker because there's still a slight chance that Kelechi Iheanacho might leave. I really hope not, because he's perfect for the system, and I really hope they're talking about giving him a new contract. But Daka just doesn't look like he fits. He doesn't make the runs that Vardy does. He definitely doesn't have the close control that Vardy does. Vardy's not Riyad Mahrez or anything in terms of his close control, but it seems like he's been progressing in terms of his ability to trap the ball and maybe lay it off somewhat. I know that's not all that Maresca is going to ask him to do with the different tactic that I think is going on between him and Kelechi Iheanacho when they play, but definitely is more suited to it than Daka. And I think Daka going, unfortunately, will be good. I was very optimistic when we signed him. I loved the stats he was putting up at Red Bull Salzburg, but it's just, again, looking like it was a Rodgers era signing that is not going to fit in the Maresca era. And last but certainly not least, this one hurts a little bit, and for multiple reasons. It looks like Wilfred Ndidi is going to be going to Nottingham Forest. I really love Wilf. He's been so good for us. He's definitely fallen off a cliff maybe the last year or two even. But for a while there, man, I mean, he was just the best defensive midfielder in the league. And he bailed this team out so many times in so many situations from so many poor choices from other players. And I understand his legs have gone and he's not who he used to be, but it hurts to see him leaving, and it hurts to see him leaving to Nottingham Forest. So I I hope he does well. I hope, the fans give him a decent send off. I don't think the hatred that he's getting from a lot of the fan base is justified. Look, players get older. I mean, you can't come at the guy personally for his body not being able to do what it used to do. That's the bottom line, and we just need to have some maturity about these things. But definitely wish him well if he ends up leaving, and hopefully we get some players in to replace him. I know that Leicester were linked with Ilias Shar over the summer, and hopefully these outgoings will enable them to bring in someone like that. Um, and then there's a couple other. I know we got Yunus Akgün in. Hopefully, I'm saying his name right. From Turkey, I believe it was Galatasaray. Look, I know we remember Cengiz Under coming in and how he underwhelmed. This guy's a slightly different profile. He's a little bigger. I think we need to give him a chance. Again, I don't think we should write him off just because he's coming from Turkey and we had another Turkish player come over and not perform. Give him a shot and let's see what he does. And then there are also reports with a Ghanaian international from Sporting. I want to say Fatawu. Fatawu is his name. I saw some highlight reels that Leicester fans have shown of him, and he looks good. He's got a great left foot. I saw some Mahrez-like dribble shot combinations. Obviously, it's against Leicester opponents. This isn't the Premier League he's playing in, but it's still, we need a left footer. We need a left footer on that side. We need someone to push McAteer and Marsal. So it'll be good to have him in if he ends up coming in. And yeah, so there is some potential for others to leave, like we were hinting at before. And maybe even some we don't expect or want to leave, i.e. Kelechi Iheanacho, Yannick Vestergaard, players like that. I know Luke Thomas has been recently linked to a loan move to Leeds United, which is worrying considering they are a direct rival and considering what they're looking like now that they've signed Joel Perreault, which we desperately wanted, and I don't understand why we didn't get. But now that they've signed him and their front line is starting to come together, they're going to be dangerous, and loaning a academy product to a direct rival who will probably get the best out of him considering he'll be motivated, maybe play with a little chip on his shoulder. I don't know that that's the best business decision, but at the same time, having him sitting around not playing might not be the best option either. But in terms of players leaving that we might not want to, i.e. Kelechi or Vestergaard, I don't want to rule anything out. And Leicester fans should be prepared for everything and anything, considering what this window has looked like. I mean, I know we're not getting bids from Saudi teams, i.e. except for Jamie Vardy, but the window has been crazy. There's been a lot of big shock transfers, so I wouldn't rule anything out. And one, again, that I mentioned was Kelechi Iheanacho. I hope he does not go. I hope we fend off all offers for him. He needs to stay. We need to sign he needs to sign a contract with us again, at least another year or 2 years, so that maybe at the end of the season, if we go up, we put a stipulation to say, look, you get us back up, we won't let you go wherever you want. But yeah, it's definitely something Leicester fans should be prepared for. The window is rapidly closing, so keep your hats on, your seatbelts buckled, because it could be a crazy end to the transfer window. All right, we are going to take another break here at the Fellow Foxes podcast, and when we come back, we will be discussing the next match for Leicester City against Tranmere in the EFL Cup. Stay with us, and we will be right back. right, and we are back here at the Fellow Foxes podcast. Thank you for being with us. And we are now going to do a brief preview of the Tranmere game. I don't know too much about them. They are League Two. So we're going to do the best we can here. We're going to switch to the computer screen and get a little look at a preview of the Tranmere and Leicester game. So what I want to do here is just highlight Tranmere's games that they've had so far. Now, according to my deep research, Tranmere has lost 4 of their opening 5 games and won 1 of them. So that's, not looking good for them in terms of the comparisons, because we've obviously won every game we've played this season, barring preseason games. So in terms of the records of the teams, Tranmere is near the bottom of League Two, and Leicester obviously are top of the division. So it should be an easy match for Leicester, by all accounts, with an opponent that is vastly under them in terms of skill and in terms of their results and their form. One thing that I wrote down is that we are likely to see a lot of backups or fringe players in this game, like Stolarczyk coming in, Albright, and maybe we see James Justin for the first time. I know we saw him come in as a sub last game, but just in terms of starting and getting a full 90 minutes, it would be good for him, or at least starting a game and get 60, 70 minutes in the legs to get him back into form here. Maybe we see Jamie Vardy start the game. I know Kelechi's been starting a lot of the games, and again, to just maybe bed Vardy into this different style of play a little bit more against a lesser opponent. Could be something that we would see. Chowdhury might get a start as well. Again, just with the quality of opponent and the chance to get some fringe players more accustomed to playing in this system, I think it's something we might see. Also, I'm looking forward to possibly seeing Kezare Cassidy start his first game, and maybe we can get new signing Good in as well. It would be good to see him in some capacity. Judging from how I've seen Maresca operate with Cassidy so far, I don't know that he'll start the game Ogden. I think he might come on as a sub late in the game, or maybe halftime, something like that, depending on how the game's going. But I still would like to see him. Want to see him, what he's got to offer the team, what he's been getting in training so far, and how far he's coming along. I'm going to do a small prediction here. I see Leicester getting a comfortable 3-4-0 win. It just seems that the team is starting to click a little bit. It seems like the patterns are getting more and more solidified within these players. Maybe it won't be as smooth considering the possibility of all these backups and fringe players coming in, but I definitely think Leicester should boss this game. This team is poor from what I can tell from the results. I've not watched them a second, but just judging from the results that they've had, they're not doing well. And I know that this is going to be, again, a cup final for them. Every single team that plays us, it's a cup final for them. So we need to be on it. But if Leicester played at their level, I think they should easily, comfortably come away with 3 or 4 goals and not concede any. That would be very nice. But yeah, we need to definitely still watch on set pieces. It seems like the lower down the leagues you get, these big physical players are more highlighted, and set pieces especially are more important for these lower league and maybe lower quality opposition teams. So just, again, something that Leicester need to clean up is these set pieces. We saw trouble with it in pretty much every game, definitely the last game. And just, yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a game for Leicester in terms of the difficulty, but got to be up for it. Can't write the opponent off before the game. Got to play who's in front of you and play to your level. But that is going to wrap things up for here at the Fellow Foxes podcast, episode 5. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for everyone who has liked, subscribed, shared, promoted, otherwise just been involved in any way. We are trying to build something here, and I appreciate everyone's support. So thank you again. Be well, be happy, be safe. treat each other with respect and love. And let's go, Foxes.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling.